In November of this year, I'll be hitting 1,000 days sober from alcohol. I quit drinking at 21 years old, and I wouldn't have expected to give up the booze this quickly, nor would I have expected the life-changing things that have happened to me from the point of stopping. Most of my peers were already beginning their party stages, and I, at 21 years young, was stopping? It made no sense, but to me it felt right. I'm not here to bring you over to the cohort of people that have quit drinking alcohol. I'm here to share with you the lessons I've learned from 1,000 days sober from alcohol. Throughout this time, I took the risk of quitting my full-time job to pursue a career in filmmaking, built 2 personal brands on Twitter, chasing the money and burning myself out while doing it. I used to believe the only way to be courageous, confident, or myself was to be on the sips. But throughout all of these years with no alcohol, I learned what I never would have expected to learn. And today, I'm going to be sharing the lessons I've learned throughout these 1,000 days sober from alcohol. This one hit me so frequently, and it's lesson number 1. You are judged more when you stop drinking than when you say you do drink. I've been judged more being sober from alcohol than by drinking alcohol. Questions such as, why did you stop drinking? Why? What's wrong with you? Why? That's so lame. Comes up as 2 things. One, it's as if something is completely wrong with me to potentially give up the idea of drinking. And number 2 was that I was an alcoholic or that something happened to me in order for me to stop. Never it coming to the minds of someone that alcohol is, objectively speaking, a poison, a depressant, a toxin to your liver, your body, and your brain. As if me rejecting a shot for their 22nd birthday would ruin their night, and it was of more relevance than my own body, dignity, and self-respect. That's not an issue on you. It's their inability to admit and be aware that someone doesn't want to poison themselves, and them somehow feeling like I rejected them and not the alcohol itself. The lesson I took away from that one was the ones that judge you for the actions that you take, or in this case, actions that you don't take, isn't an aspect in you that's less than. It's a direct invitation where in life the people around you are. People who judge you for what is, objectively speaking, a positive tendency, something to be proud of, just shows you're around the wrong people, and they do not belong in your life. Lesson number 2, why I started drinking in the first place even though I didn't like the flavor of alcohol. It's very simple. When I was a young adult, a young child in my early days, I was surrounded by people who drank. My dad, I remember vividly at 11 years old, my dad getting dragged into a room while he was drunk on his 50th birthday. And considering to him, that was his fun. That was something that he did to decompress and just enjoy himself. No judgments at all. But when you see that, you try to enact and become what you aspire to be, right? So I myself noticed that I was starting to envision and romanticize and want the ability to get drunk. So at that time frame, when I was 11, 12, 13 years old, I didn't want to be at the age that I was. I wanted to be just like my parents. I just wanted to be like my older brother who was having beer pong festivals and beer pong parties every weekend. I wanted to be just like that. So once I grew up to the age to which I was able to drink, I did it, even though I did not like alcohol in and of itself. I still remember cranking down my first beer at 14 years old while I was waiting on my older brother to finish playing the Xbox, even though he just told me one more game 14 games ago. The lesson in that is that human beings are socially conforming creatures who aspire to have community. The worst thing in the Paleolithic era wasn't to consume a poisonous berry or come into contact with poison ivy or be attacked by a bear, but by being banished by your tribe. Whatever you surround yourself with, you become and act like, even if it's something you despise of. Be careful with who you have in your surroundings. Lesson number 3, you don't need alcohol, you are already source. I loved Liquid Courage. Liquid Courage to me was what I enjoyed about alcohol. It was the ability to enact a persona that I didn't or couldn't pull out of me while I was sober. And that's the purpose as to why I started drinking alcohol in the first place. Obviously, I had my surroundings, I had the people who I was around, and I wanted to embody them. But there was a component to alcohol that I enjoyed, which was the ability to be confident, courageous, and be like someone who I aspired to be like. And the only time I was able to actually be myself was by altering my mind and my body, which is so untrue. Obviously, at that given time frame, I was socially anxious. I couldn't go up and speak to a girl. I was just lavished and born and in this deep state of fear all the time that the point I did drink alcohol, finally the edge was able to remove itself and I was able to live and enjoy life. I realized though that the more I was staying away from alcohol and the more I was accumulating days, the more I realized how much more of myself I can access by, this is a shocker, being sober. I had believed I was more like the man that I wanted to be when I was drinking alcohol. Yet when I was sober, I actually remembered the night before. I was genuinely involved in the activity that we were doing that night. I didn't have to worry about who and how people were going to get home. I didn't have to spend any excess money on any alcohol because I was just drinking water and taking care of myself. I also knew that I wasn't going to be going home with anybody that night and that I would be in bed by 10 p.m. The point that I want to drive home is you don't need alcohol in order to be more like yourself. You don't need to chemically alter your brain and your body to try to access you. You are already that source that is capable of being courageous and confident. The lesson that I gain mostly is people who are socially anxious are underground extroverts. However, they use their modern acceptable label of social anxiety as an excuse to prevent themselves from doing something that's hard, like talking in public, which reinforces the usage of alcohol because in order for you to be like yourself, you need a sip of the drink. Yet, you don't understand the characteristics to be socially open, honest, courageous, or confident is already accessible to you while you're sober. However, because of your excuse, you reinforce the idea that you're incapable of speaking in public. So as a result, you find evidence convincing you that it is true. Alcohol is simply the conduit allowing you to access those parts of yourself. Lesson number 4, my productivity skyrocketed. Not one day has been taken up because of what I've done the night before. And I take a lot of pride in that because when people are waking up from their hangover on a Sunday morning, I'm taking a walk at the local park, sipping on my water and appreciating life. My productivity, my availability to access myself and focus on myself and be intentional with the things that I'm working on and building have been the best it's ever been. My productivity just fucking skyrocketed. Before I was convinced I was such a forgetful person. And I'm not going to say that this is all the alcohol's doing, but in me giving up alcohol, something just flipped the switch where I was able to be more involved, more focused, more attentive, have more intention, and no longer was I forgetting the things that I was convinced I would forget. I was no longer that forgetful person. I was actually remembering things like words or phrases or quotes or the authors of some books. I was intentionally working on myself, and as a result, I just got so much better communication-wise, writing-wise, business-wise. I built 2 businesses from the ground up, and my energy levels were just peak because there was a position where I was working 3 total jobs, waking up at 2:45 a.m. so that way I could go to the gym at 4. From the gym at 4 to 5 o'clock, I went to work at 5:30 a.m., 5:30 to 2. Then right after my first job at 2 o'clock, I would go to my second job from 2 to 6:30. When I would be done with that second job, I would get home and work on my business from 6:30 to 7:45 so I can be in bed by 8, and then repeat the cycle for 7 days straight. I did that for 3 months, and I was able to build and foster a business while being able to work 2 jobs on the side, while being able to go to the gym 6 times a week, bulking, walking 10,000 steps a day. Are you fucking kidding me? There was absolutely no point where alcohol was involved in that. And the amount of power that you have while you're young and made of magic and rubber is insurmountable. And it's something that you need to take advantage of as opposed to killing yourself, literally, with alcohol. The lesson in that is in aiming to improve upon yourself, you're unwilling to partake in any activity that damages you. Number 5, if I don't like you sober, there's no chance I'll have a drink with you. In not drinking alcohol, I've discovered a lot about the people who I want to surround myself with and those that I don't. Through these last years, I've found that I truly value people who are authentic, honest, open-minded, and are focused on improving themselves. It's easy identifying the things to say yes to and the things to say no to because, just hearing about what they're going to be doing that night is either a red flag to me or a green flag to me, which makes it easier to say no if it's something that isn't aligned, and it makes it easier to say yes if it is aligned. It becomes easier to say no to alcohol because the less I drink it, the less I have an urge. Anytime it was offered to me, I declined because I wasn't in the mood to drink. And if I did have the urge to drink, it was never worth the amount of money that I would pay for a Pacifico. Plus, the knowing of what it did to your brain and body, even with just one, saying no became easier. It made me feel better about myself for resisting that temptation. The lesson I learned to that is if I don't like you sober, there's no chance I'll have a drink with you. And the more it is easier to say no, the more power you obtain yourself. Those were the 5 lessons I've learned from drinking alcohol 1,000 days sober. I'm pretty sure after I finish this video, I'm going to come up with 12 more. And yeah, I will definitely come back and reiterate upon this video another time. But for this given moment, this is all I came up with, and this is all what I was pretty much able to put onto a piece of paper. But I'm definitely glad as to what I was able to provide and the things that I said. If you guys enjoyed this, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for very, very more quality videos coming up. And also, my podcast up in the description below. You can go ahead and check it out because we have a new podcast episode coming out each and every single week on Friday, 5:30 p.m. West Coast? East? I don't remember, but you'll see it, 5:30 p.m. Anyways, I'll see you and have a great one.